All right, today on this episode of the Field to Film podcast sponsored by the Arkansas Soybean Promotion Board, we are here today with Kolten Wright, the Agricultural Science Research Technician at USDA Dale Bumpers Small Farm Research Center. How are you doing today, Kolten?
Good, good. Thank you guys for coming.
What's the most fulfilling part of working in agriculture or research?
So, like I said, I grew up on a beef cattle farm. Really, my reward comes from whatever I've got to do to help those producers answer those questions. And in those days where you can't go outside, it's a great time to usually enter data from the mile-long data sheets that we've got, or process that data, or whatever we've got to do in here in the lab.
So Kolten, today we're going to talk about what you do at the Dale Bumpers Small Farm Research Center and just a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I grew up on a small beef cattle production cow-calf operation about 30 minutes away in Waldron, Arkansas. And I've always been drawn to the sciences and drawn to the research, so I started there when getting my bachelor's degree. And then I got a job out here actually as a summer intern while I was getting my bachelor's degree, and I found out that I could kind of combine those two and get to do research that helps answers those questions that small farms like we have.
And so let's talk a little bit about the Dale Bumpers Small Farm Research Center. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission and how you contribute to that?
Yeah, so we're pretty unique in the sense that we focus our research towards small farms, right? So we've got soils aspects to look into, forage, crops, small and large ruminants, and we use a lot of technology applications like drones and such. So we look at all those different things, and my job is just to simply support the research. So from collecting samples, taking data collections, organizing that data, keeping records, taking notes, all that good stuff. That's more or less what my job is in a nutshell.
So I'm gonna go back a little bit to your internship. What did it look like as an intern versus now?
So as an intern, it was, required a lot more supervision, and it was a lot simpler roles because, you know, the attention to detail that you need for all these research to be accurate is not something you turn loose a 19 or 20-year-old with all the time, right? But it was a lot of tractor operations. I'd take basic samples and more or less learning the ropes of ag research.
And so what hooked you to stay?
Well, it's a really good job, and it's right up my alley of what my interests are. So, you know, how to grow forages the best way and the most efficient way and what helps people. And the very fact that it's research and it's like the most hard truth that you can get in this line of work is something that I've always been drawn to.
So can you tell us about what a typical day in the life of Kolten Wright looks like?
A typical day is hard to exactly explain because if 2 days are the same, it's most likely because some kind of experiment required them to be that way, right? But we may be inside, we may be outside, we could do everything from implementing the plots, planting them, fertilizing them, spraying, all that good stuff, taking the data off of those plots. So we'll go out and make observations and tally up different things on different kind of sheets. And then we also do quite a bit of data collection or sample collection. So harvesting plants, harvesting flowers, beans, pods, seed heads, all that good stuff. And we try to get together as a group and figure out some kind of prioritized list so that it's a little more of an organized approach and we know who's going where and who's doing what.
In the materials that you had provided us, you said that native warm season grasses are an industry-specific topic that you had mentioned. What role do these grasses play in sustainable agriculture, and why is it important for Arkansas farmers?
So, us being USDA, we hope to reach way more people than just Arkansas, but Arkansas is definitely one of them, is because there's a lot of forage production here. These grasses, native grasses, just means that they were here before the settlers came and introduced other grasses from around the world, right? Like Bermuda grass, tall fescue, those are introduced grasses. Warm season grasses just means that they typically grow in the summertime as opposed to the spring or fall times, like how tall fescue does, right? So native warm season grasses, are the ones that were here before settlers and grew in the middle of the summer. These grasses have a role to play in the ecology around here, right? And a lot of people really believe, and a lot of the research leads us to suggest that they're really beneficial and they need to stay in this kind of ecosystem. So if we can find ways for producers to utilize them efficiently and draw profit off of those grasses, it's kind of a win-win environmentally and from the production side.
So how do you guys get your research? I know you just said that you put it into a publication, but how do you get that to the producers?
It's all of our publications, one, should get published in some kind of journal or online journal. A lot of these are collaborated with through universities who have extension agents, So a lot of the times that material goes through that university, through that extension agent directly to producers in that way. And then other times it's through outreach like conferences, field days, that kind of thing.
So whenever challenges do come, whether it's in the field or the lab, how do you stay motivated?
Oh, Lord. It's a good job and I really like it. Some days get hard, but those hard days are a lot easier to take whenever it's going towards something beneficial to lots of people.
Are there any projects, partnerships that you're working on or that have stood out for you?
I absolutely love collaborating on projects because we share a lot of the same passions, so we sit around and talk about lots of different, not just the project that we're collaborating on, but lots of different topics. And it's very insightful too because you collaborate with experts in the same field, right? So you get to see firsthand a lot of their perspective on different topics.
So throughout this time, has there been a project that really stood out to you and made you think, man, I love my job?
Yeah, so probably the project that I was talking about that tests the different native warm season grasses as a complementary grazing system to tall fescue. We get to work with the University of Arkansas, the University of Missouri, and the University of Tennessee on that project. And that's a good group of folks, and I've learned a lot from them, and I really appreciate all that they've taught me and just the time I got to spend with them. And that's been a 4-year project, and we're actually closing that project out this month.
And I know I didn't put this in the pre-questions, but do you guys do any work with soybeans?
We've done some work with soybeans. We had an organic project where we were looking at different it was a soybean and sorghum rotation. And we were looking at the different, because in organics you can't apply synthetic fertilizers or herbicides, which causes some challenges. So we looked at different termination effects of cover crops that leading into that summer cash crop in a couple of different edamame growing projects that were fun.
What made them fun?
Well, partially I got to pick some edamame and eat it afterwards, so that was fun.
That is very fun. Okay, so now we're going to transition a little bit into advice for the next generation, if you will. How does your work shape the future of Arkansas agriculture as a whole?
A lot of the times our research it takes years for it to really come out and especially get acknowledged, but you never really know what people are going to latch on to. So, but I do think that we're doing some work in agroforestry, loblolly pines, that could potentially draw multiple incomes for small producers. I think that they'll find interesting. Native warm season grasses, some of our technology use, and just a lot of the grazing management systems that we're working on here.
And so if you could share one piece of advice for people maybe who don't have agriculture experience or who were maybe like you and grew up on a farm, what piece of advice would you give them as they progress in their career?
Go to like a professor or your extension agent or somebody who will talk about it for a long time and talk to those different people about what you're interested in. If you talk to those people, you might figure that out sooner. And not to mention, as you're talking to these people and learning things from them, I think you're also possibly gaining contacts, potential employers and that kind of thing.
And so when you were growing up, did you ever think you would be where you are today?
No, no, I did not. So I actually started as a fisheries and wildlife major, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I had 4 years to figure it out. So looking back, that wasn't exactly true. But I started this job out here. I knew I enjoyed research, and then I changed my major, and really glad that I did.
And here you are.
And here I am.
So what qualities and skill sets would you recommend for young people to have?
If you're going into research specifically, it's really important to develop a sense of paying attention to details, because I don't think people realize how little they do that, how necessary it is for the job and how little they do it. But you come into a job like this and everything, the more precise you can be in any aspect of it, the better you're going to do at your job. So taking samples, you have to take the exact amount that's in the protocol, do the exact steps with it that are designed, and if that varies, you could skew your results, which goes into a publication, and then it messes up the farmers, right?
We don't want to mess with the farmers.
We don't want to mess with the farmers, no.
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you think, people up and coming agriculture professionals that they should know?
No, I think a lot of it is just gaining that experience in different parts of the field, right? Mm-hmm. So talking to people, being curious, asking questions. People with PhDs, asking them questions is like asking them to do their favorite thing in the world. They just love answering questions. So ask them questions, gain some experience, and feel it out.
All right. So Kolten, thank you so much for joining us today on the Field to Film podcast. We've really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming.